Good afternoon, everybody, both you who are here and those who are watching us via live streaming to this university-wide address. Before we start, if you don't mind turning down or silencing or putting on vibrate your cell phones or PDFs, greatly appreciated. I'm Michael Wright, Vice President for Marketing Communications and Chief of Staff. And I don't think I need a long introduction for this man. This is our 11th President of Wayne State University, Allan Gilmour.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for that generous introduction. Leaves more time for me to talk here this afternoon. Well, good afternoon. Welcome. Nice to see you here on such a nice day. We should have held this outside somewhere because as we come to the middle of September, well, we won't get into that. Let me start by introducing three members of our board who are here today, and I appreciate their attendance very much. Annetta Miller, and please don't stand up, just raise your hand. Paul Messeron, Eugene Dreiker. Well, it was a little over a year ago when I was on this stage. For those of you who remember, it was a Q&A format because we concluded, after my extensive experience of 2 weeks, that I didn't have enough material to give an address. So we very carefully vetted the questions. That's an important thing to do in Q&A. And I found it very interesting to talk about what little I knew then, but to think about the questions that people wanted answered. I didn't know a heck of a lot then. I've learned a lot since. One of the things I've learned is I have plenty more to learn because this is a big, complicated, important institution, and every day I discover something new, sometimes favorable, sometimes not, but it is a fascinating and important institution. One thing I do recall from last year was the feeling of renewal on the campus with the start of the fall semester. And I had the same feeling this year, 2 weeks ago at Convocation, because each year we have the benefit of a fresh infusion of new students and new faculty, of new ideas, enthusiasm. You know, it's different in the world of business. Each business has its own cadence and rhythm, but nothing like the feeling of a college campus in the fall. It reminds me a bit of what it was like to be a student and start a new school year. New teachers, new classes, new classmates, a chance to recall last year's successes, or depending on the kind of year you had, to wipe the slate clean and start all over again. And it's nice to have this feeling of a new start. But unlike the students, the university doesn't get to wipe the slate clean. And in some ways, of course, this is good. Organizations don't last nearly 150 years by starting over every year. They last that long by standing for something, no matter what comes along, even as they evolve to meet the changing needs of a changing world. And what do we stand for? What is Wayne State University? And many people have asked me over the last year, what's our vision? What's our mission? What do we stand for? And I confess I've avoided the questions. Some of the askers are right here in this room. Partly because I spent too many hours over too many years in too many conference rooms debating words when there was so much work to be done. And partly I was new to Wayne State and I needed to learn a lot more. And partly because I believe that vision and strategy come out of the daily work of all of us as much as the daily work comes out of the vision and strategy. But after spending a year here, after hearing from many talented and passionate people, after discussions and meetings and reports and debates and observations, I've noticed a certain consistency in how we describe Wayne State University and what we do. Who are we? What's our vision? I would sum it up like this. We're a community of learners. We're a community of learners with a passion for discovery, driven to create and apply knowledge for the greater good. We're a community of learners deeply rooted in our metropolitan location. We're a community of learners from down the street and around the world, representing every culture, creed, and color. We're a community of learners motivated by the success of our students and unwilling to lower our expectations or their chances for achievement. We pursue knowledge for its own sake, and we push students for theirs. We prod, we struggle, we rise, we fall. In what has been called the nervous, incurious world of today, our job is to be bold and insatiably curious. I'm reminded of the words of Walt Whitman, who wrote the phrase, "Unscrew the locks from the door." We must unscrew the locks from the door of knowledge and let in the world and let the knowledge out. It isn't always easy, but great things seldom are. We are a community of learners with a mission to create, discover, and share knowledge for the good of our students and the good of the world. This is our foundation, and this will not change. And it's this foundation, this solid foundation, that has brought us so far and helped us accomplish so much. An interesting thing I've learned about higher education is sometimes we focus more on what we do wrong and what others do wrong than what we do right. In a way, that's good. We need to be honest about ourselves, to look critically, but we shouldn't lose sight of our accomplishments or the great things that are happening here and elsewhere in higher education. It's because we're a community of learners that we produced a groundbreaking study by the Parentology Research Branch of the National Institutes of Health, which is housed right here by Wayne State School of Medicine at Hutzel Hospital. The study showed that premature births can be reduced significantly with a simple, inexpensive procedure. I know I've talked a lot about this before, but I can't resist the temptation to share it again. This is the big breakthrough, and the story was covered around the world. Beyond that, you know, it feels good to be part of an organization that helps save lives. Our research produces a steady drumbeat of important and interesting studies that find their way into the media, but more importantly, into the lives of people who need them. Good Morning America picked up a story about a study at Wayne State that analyzed changes in mother-son relationships over time and the corresponding effects on teen behavior. A team of researchers from all over the U.S. and Canada participated. Last week, Good Morning America also featured one of our professors, Dr. David Rosenberg, speaking about ADHD. And this story was also carried on CNN headline news. There are many, many more interesting research studies going on, and we haven't had enough time to tally them and speak about them today, but just a few more examples. We're researching new materials for nanotechnology that can be implanted in the body to fight long-term diseases like epilepsy, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. Wayne State research has led to gene therapy that fools cancer cells into destroying themselves. Our researchers have discovered more targeted and effective ways to treat osteoarthritis and the beneficial effects of believing in a higher power for patients with traumatic brain injury. And beyond the labs, we've got new buildings and ribbon-cutting plans. We've got new deans and new chairs and new faculty. We've got new tenants in Midtown and a zip car program to help our students get around. In short, we have a dizzying array of accomplishments and activities, and we should be proud. And this is made possible because of our foundation, knowing who we are and what we do. But while a strong foundation is necessary for success, it is not sufficient. We must evolve to meet the changing needs of a changing world. No change isn't new to Wayne State. If we hadn't changed throughout our history, we wouldn't be here today. The best livery stable in Detroit at the turn of the 20th century is no longer in business. The buggy whip company has disappeared. Henry Ford allegedly said that if he had asked potential customers what they wanted, they would have replied, "faster horses." Think of the technological changes since 1868, the year of our founding. We didn't just watch them happen, we helped make them happen. But every turn of history presents new challenges. And it is to these challenges that we must respond. We must lead. Our economy is weak, and no substantial turnaround is in sight. Our government is slashing funding to higher education. Every day there are more books and articles questioning the value of a college degree or the value of research. There's increasing scrutiny on how we operate and rising anger about tuition costs. There's growing competition from traditional institutions and new participants as well. Higher expectations and changing demographics, doomsday scenarios about the future of higher education, and dashboards to measure our shortcomings. It's enough to make us despair or rouse us to action. We've chosen the latter path. We will lead change rather than be victims of it. We do some things very well, but we also know we can do better. So where are we focusing in the short term? First of all, we know we must do better with retention and graduation rates. This is one of the concerns that was expressed last year when I arrived. I believe that my arrival and that article came on the same day. I got less publicity than I deserved, therefore. Okay, on this problem, we have finished studying the problem, and we're taking action. Some of the action, and it started prior to my arrival, has yielded positive results. Our freshman to sophomore retention rate has risen to 77%, up from 69% 3 years ago. And before the month is over, or about the end of the month, we'll know what the results were for this fall. When the last year's freshmen, how many are back here as sophomores this year? We're expanding our advising capabilities and capacity. We're continuing to build on the success of our learning communities. We have made curriculum changes and financial aid improvements. We're moving fast because the success of our students is paramount. Because if they fail, we fail. Related to this, we know we must be better as a university of opportunity. We need to ensure that the students we admit, and let's remind ourselves that we're a research university that expects good academic performance. We must be sure those students are ready. So they will have every chance of success, even if they and we have to stretch to get there. We're completing a thorough analysis of the subject and are continuing to discuss possible solutions. We want to better understand the profile of students who graduate so we can better assess up front an applicant's possibilities of success. This will take more work on our part because we intend to keep the door open wide for students with the talent and desire to succeed, even if they've been denied admission to more exclusive universities. We'll be looking more closely at each individual applicant. We'll be offering the opportunity for students to provide an essay to supplement their application. We'll provide opportunities for some students to become better prepared by offering classes in the summer before their freshman year. We're doing these things and more because they're the right things to do as a university of opportunity. We know we must be better with our customer service throughout the campus. Example, we'll be launching in early October our Student Success Center so that our students have services like admissions, registration, and financial aid, and housing, and advising, and a whole bunch of other things in one place rather than scattered all around the campus. We know we must do better with our budgeting process. The chance of the states restoring funding to higher education is very slim for the foreseeable future. But even if we were more optimistic, we would still need to ensure that our financial and budgeting systems are integrated and that we operate with the best input and data available, and that we focus on the quality of our programs as we make trade-offs. We know we must do better with our overall processes and systems. I spoke recently about the analysis of our administrative systems by the Huron Consulting Group. The assessment phase is complete. We've reviewed the final report. We have not made final decisions on all of the recommendations, but in some areas we've begun to implement changes that should show results. Purchasing, admissions, financial aid, IT, in some areas there's no need to wait. We know we must continue to build and retain a talented faculty. They are the key to the success of students and of this institution. But we're not just planning for change in the future, we're in the midst of it right now. And some of these changes are paying off already. I welcomed, and several other people did as well, a very well-prepared freshman class at Convocation a couple of weeks ago. And that class included 18 National Merit finalists, our most ever. A few days earlier, I welcomed more than 130 new faculty members, many of whom are tenured or tenure track, the result of taking actions approved last year by our Board of Governors. But just because we're making progress on some short-term issues doesn't mean we've taken our eye off the longer term. Far from it. We intend to maintain our Carnegie rating, to build our reputation as a university of discovery. If there's anyone who's still wondering whether a research university or a teaching university, the debate is over. The answer is yes. We are both. And both serve us well and all our constituents well. But also, in a world of scarce and scarcer resources, where do we want to focus our research efforts? And we'll need everyone's thinking on this as we move ahead in the next few months. Another question, how do we measure the quality of what we do in teaching and research to ensure that we're excellent or moving in the right direction? How good, how competitive is our undergraduate experience, the experience for our master's and PhD students? Another question, how do we make sure we're all properly trained for the jobs we do, internal jobs? We as employees, if I can use that term, are we properly trained? How do we provide development opportunities? We're an educational institution, yet we sometimes neglect to teach ourselves. There's much to be done, but it's all good work. I'm fond of a quote from Emerson that says, and I quote, "This time, like all times, is a good one if we but know what to do with it." This is our time, and we know what to do with it. To those of you who are experiencing the effects of changes or are leading change, thank you for all you're doing. For those of you who may so far feel relatively unaffected, watch out, because change is coming, and we look forward to your involvement because we need it. Many of the changes I've talked about refer to the way we operate, the processes, the systems, the structure. We can fix these things, and we're well on our way to doing so. But I've recently been reminded of the importance of culture in an organization. Not just what we do, but how we work together, where we focus our attention, how we treat people, how we communicate, our expectations of the institution and each other, what we value most. These are important considerations, and they're often the difference between whether we like and value what we do or whether we just collect a paycheck. An organization's culture can mean the difference between success and failure. I'm often asked about differences between the corporate world and higher education. There are many, of course, just as there are many similarities. But the difference that strikes me most forcefully is the treatment and plain courtesy we extend to each other. I hear words and comments here at Wayne State that I never heard in the business world. Harsh, disrespectful, rude comments about others and their thoughts and opinions and decisions. This is not an element of a winning culture. Personal note, my own efficiency is improving because I now stop reading letters and emails when decisions made by me or others are described as ridiculous, foolish, irresponsible, a whole bunch of words like that. Our decisions here, big and small, are made by good people doing their best all across the university. As I said, I never heard these derogatory words in business because even in the toughest times and with strong disagreements among us, we knew that all of us were doing our best for the company and the best for the customers. But at Wayne, I find appalling the degree of discourtesy I too often read or hear. Now, I realize these comments apply only to a small minority of our people, but I find it unacceptable, and I want the whole university to know it. This is not the sort of culture we want at Wayne State University. And I'm delighted that Ron Brown and his colleagues just now are starting an effort to look at better ways of communicating with each other, communicating with respect Ron, thank you for doing that. What kind of culture do we want? What should we be? If I were to ask you about Wayne State University's culture, I'm sure we'd hear many opinions. I hope I would hear about a passion for teaching and research. I hope I would hear that we care about students. That's the sort of culture I would like us to have. That's the sort of place I would like to work. I hope we can have a culture of accountability, where we do what we say we're going to do, where we measure our progress, where we have the courage to assess ourselves honestly. I hope we can have a culture where we focus on what is most important, rather than letting small things divert us. And we know what's most important: the success of our students, the strength of our faculty, the pursuit of knowledge, and the productive engagement with our community. I hope we can have a culture of collaboration, where we share information and support each other, where we treat each other with respect and civility, as we just discussed, where we listen to each other and value each other's contributions. I hope we can have a culture of excellence, where we continually strive to do things better or find a better way of doing things altogether. I hope we have a culture of service. This word is sometimes interpreted as shorthand for customer service, but I mean more than that. It goes beyond a smile and a helping hand, although these are certainly encouraged. To serve is to give of oneself for the sake of another. And whom do we serve? We serve our students. We serve each other. We serve our community. And we serve the cause of learning. These are big responsibilities, and we cannot forget them because we're busy with other things. Ultimately, this is why we are here. So I would ask this of you: turn these hopes into realities. For each of us, create a culture here at Wayne State where we value each other and what we do, where we value honesty and collaboration, where we build each other up, where we practice respectful and civil dialogue, where we have the courage to find creative solutions, and where we refuse to bow to cynicism and negativity, where we all strive for excellence and we are restless in our pursuit of knowledge, and where we serve each other. In the last few days, all of us have reflected on the events of 9/11 and what's happened in the 10 years following. These days made me think again of what we do and why we do it, a theme I touched upon at inauguration back in April. Our purpose is clear. It is knowledge, how we discover knowledge and how we transmit it, how we are a community of learners. This university is moving ahead in ways that will improve what we now do in the classrooms, labs, offices, and playing fields. Moving ahead as we work to improve our efficiency without damaging our effectiveness. Moving ahead to provide better career opportunities through new programs for development and training. Moving ahead to improve our revenue model. Moving ahead to be a bigger force in our community. Moving ahead to attract and retain the best faculty and staff right here at Wayne State. Each moving ahead is important. Taken together, however, they describe a university that is building on its traditions and successes to achieve a unique position in higher education. Thank you for all you do for Wayne State. Thank you for your involvement and your leadership and your hard work. Be proud of what you do, what we all do, what this university does. We are Wayne State University. We're an outstanding community of learners. Thank you very much.